All right. Hopefully everyone's having a good weekend so far. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. We can kick off this DAO call, and I know I did mention in the agendas that this might be the last officially facilitated DAO call for the time being until we are reinstated. And I will bring up that topic again later during this call. I will start with the active proposals. There are currently 5, and we will also have FIFU on the call in a bit to talk about this one, the DEP new features added by the DAO. It is in SIGPROP and it ends during the call. Right now, the quorum is more than met. It's at 122% with 79.72% in favor of features including wearables lending, Aavegotchi lending, and BRS optimizer. Next one is the budget to reimburse Pixelcraft. And that one, for that one, Pixelcraft paid to bring the Aavegotchi Foundation back to compliance. It's for the DAO to reimburse those payments. Quorum is currently at 115% with 76.23% in favor. And the voting ends on the 17th of this month for that one. Next, we have Aavegotchi's Chapter 2. It's a SIGPROP, and it's for new features for the game, including monetization and marketing of the game. It looks not to be passing as the quorum is only at 81.6% with 55.85% against it, but the voting ends on the 19th of this month. Next, we have moving liquidity and funds from Polygon to Base. That is in SIGPROP. Voters are overwhelmingly in favor of this proposal, and the voting ends on the 15th. Quorum is at 88.3% with 93.58% in favor. And finally, we have funding the future of Gotchi Battler, a core prop, for adding new gameplay features and monetization to Gotchi Battler. Most are in favor of this proposal, 71.79%, and the quorum is only at 61%, but it has a lot of time left because it ends on the 22nd. And yep, that is all for the active proposal summaries. And before we get into anything else, we can kick off this call with FIFU. If you're around, you want requested a slot, put your hand up.
I don't see him on the call yet. Maybe
Yeah.
he's going to join a little bit later.
Yeah, I don't see him in the audience yet. Okay. So I can do a quick recap of what the DAO has been talking about lately. Let's see. Last weekend, we discussed the possible acquisition of the Aavegotchi project by a VC or venture capitalist. And the recording for that meeting is here for anyone who wants to catch up. And that has been an interesting topic as it has sparked another topic in the forums about DAO treasury distribution. And I can go over that one. But first, I can start with the DAO facilitator thread. Let's see. I did want to bring this up during this meeting and ask why the facilitator proposal did not reach quorum and why it didn't get a lot of votes. We need your opinion in this forum here. We just want to ask like what needs to change or if it's just like bad timing for a new term to be established. My personal opinion is we can just resubmit the proposal because it's not the first time we would have needed to do that for a vote to pass, historically speaking. But even so, I wanted to ask for a temperature check on the DAO's opinions about this because, I would love to keep hosting these calls for you guys. I think we all would. Just need to prioritize work to get by, and that's just my 2 cents. It was only 10 days. That's true. It wasn't the usual full 2 weeks. We could resubmit it with more time on it. Yeah, and people started moving their voting power to base already. Good moves, good moves. Yeah. So it looks like we can probably just resubmit the proposal. I know that internally we were having discussions about it just between the facilitators on this
Yeah, I think
topic.
it makes sense. Probably give it one more shot,
Yeah.
see where it goes.
Yeah. And then we can reassess and try to make changes after that because I think it's a good proposal. All right. Cool. And yeah, we didn't have any other speakers book, but the threads have been active for one specifically. Um, so we can go back to that topic. I know that it's like a little bit weird to talk about since it's just, um, first, like very early discussion about it, but a lot of people are talking about this, and I will post the link here. Notable voices in the thread are VR Dev, Mikey J, Phantasma, and Ditchy. It was began by VR Dev, and the why. We'll talk a little bit about why people are saying that we might have a it might have a good idea for the DAO Treasury distribution. One opinion we saw by Mikey J was that people would probably act differently in regards to the Treasury funds if they themselves had direct control of them instead. And another point was security of the funds might be irresponsible to leave all the funds in the treasury while making certain business decisions regarding Aavegotchi, like before when we talked about the VC. And then how about the why not? Because there are arguments about why not as well. And, that is, we haven't even moved the project over to base yet. And, Aavegotchi still has a future, and we still may probably need to fund projects and pay the directors and pay, give those payments out. So should we give up our collective power in favor of the individual is the question. And then there's a how it would be done because people are starting to talk about how we would possibly distribute the DAO treasury. And one suggestion, the first suggestion was well, not maybe not the first, but a good one was a 25% split between historical voting power, active voting power, via rarity farming, and the last quarter staying in the DAO. And there are a lot of arguments and a lot of different opinions in this thread. So I encourage you guys to check it out. Um, and yeah, I want to stay impartial on that topic personally. But I think that's all the news we currently have right now. Does anybody have any questions or comments about these projects?
I did bump the BRS rerolls thread. Didn't get really any responses, so I'm just gonna assume that no one's interested in any sort of mechanics like that changing for the upcoming base migration.
I do think that's a good idea, and I personally like it.
I got a few. I did do a little poll. Got a couple more likes than dislikes.
Yeah, would you
But
be considering posting a proposal about it?
mm, I don't know. It's not really overwhelming. It doesn't seem like there's an overwhelming group that is really on board with it. Like I saw, it did seem to be kind of half and half in terms of sentiment. So I don't. I'm not really gonna prioritize something that it is very divisive if people don't want it. Like it's a big change to the protocol. So
Mm.
I did bump everyone and didn't get any responses. So except for the poll that I did, but I would definitely. It seems that it's kind of a common thing. Like I'll propose an idea, ton of people will shoot it down, and then I'm just like, oh well, not people not interested in it, so I don't really follow up on it. Kind of like I think it'd be cool to have something for the base migration, but maybe BRS rerolls is not it. But we are kind of out of time at this point. This is something we could add in fairly quickly to the it would be just basically one button that you click on your gotcha to re-roll it. So it'd be like a very low lift for the team to do. That's why I kind of liked it. But I know I get every time I do something like this, I'll get called a socialist or like things like that by people. So if you really support it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Jump in. Uh, every positive comment does help.
Yeah. I mean, socialism or not, giving people a fair chance at having a good gotcha is always a good thing for, especially for newcomers. But yeah, definitely. I'll find that, let's see, increasing. Here is the link for that thread for anyone who wants to find that right now. And yeah. Okay, we have Ditchy on stage. Oh, you want to talk about the thread? That's a good idea. Welcome. The DAO Treasury distribution, right? I can't hear you.
GM, am I coming
Oh,
through now?
GM. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, it's that mute button. Just sending them invites. So thanks. Hey, I don't know if you would like to hop up here, but Phantasma, would you be comfortable talking about the open market issues that we've been discussing for the DAO to make any transactions as a group? And VR Dev, oh, could use you up here. We could use you up here too if you're comfortable. So my mic's doing that again, huh? All right, let's crank it up. All right, am I better now?
Yeah, I also adjusted
Okay.
you on my end for the recording aspect.
Oh, fantastic. All right, well, I'll go ahead and get started with a summary of what we've been discussing in that long thread. See if anybody else wants to jump up here on stage to join me in that. Welcome, VR Dev. All right, so the TLDR of what's being discussed is well, there's a lot of it. So I'll do my best to sum it up. So the discussion was spawned on the tail of the the VC buyout offer. The consideration was that a certain amount of the treasury is already slated to be distributed directly to asset holders through a previous prop that funded additional rarity farming seasons. So that ghost has already been earmarked and excuse me, earmarked for rarity farming. And so the only thing that's really holding up those new RF seasons coming out seems to be our migration to base And then it doesn't make sense to try and do that while our assets are in transit from one place to another. But on the back of that, there had been some market feedback about the liabilities, the risks that we face by having a large treasury and the way it's structured currently. Namely, that as the price of ghosts continues to decrease, but there's a lot of open ghost in the market, and ghost having such high voting power versus our assets, it creates a vector for a hostile buyout, both on the open market and through a VC channel. The position the DAO is in with its treasury right now is pretty tenuous. And so when we're talking about open market transactions, what that means is if the DAO attempts to move money through any exchange, such as buying or selling Ghost in bulk, there's no way that we're going to be able to capture the benefit of that either as a DAO or as individual members because our process is so slow and transparent. So let's say we were going to make a prop right now to sell Ghost and back into stables. Well, we would have a 3-week discussion on it in an open forum, followed by a 3 to 6 week voting window for both the SIG prop and a core prop. And while all this is happening, we're signaling the market that there's going to be a sell-off. Then we're naming the thresholds where we want to do our sells and at what prices. So there is like a 2 to 3 month head start for any margin plays or arbitragers or even bots to go in there and simply hedge against our play, putting in their buy and sell orders. And by the time any of us get to the market to sell, all of the benefits already been captured by arbitragers. Now, a VC knows that we're in that position, and they know that the only way to get around that risk is to be able to make those kind of trades in an opaque fashion. And they know that only a centralized authority that can do that without an entire voting and discussion process is able to pull that off. So knowing that that the VC kind of sees that we're in a bind in that situation, we got our big brains together and started discussing how could we distribute a portion of the treasury in order to draw down that risk, with or without a VC buyout. Dakota Dan, what does EF stand for? ETH Foundation. Okay. What are they the best at?
Market selling ETH without telling anyone ahead of time. They just dump it when ETH pumps. Or they recently they also did it like they sold it to SBET, the new ETH strategy company.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out a way to do it.
Well, they've also got a couple extra zeros behind their market cap versus us. So we make any kind of big plays, we're going to see big moves in the price of Ghost.
But people do always complain whenever they do it. But I guess the point is they don't televise their actions before they do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the treasury distribution that we're talking about here is not the entire treasury nor a dissolution of the DAO. We're simply talking about how do we draw down the amount of Ghost that the DAO is holding in the treasury, pay it out in the most equitable fashion, which is a hotly debated topic right now because there's no way to satisfy everyone. There will be winners and losers. So how can we're discussing how to spread that in a way that everybody gets some win and some loss. And it would allow all the people who are looking to get exit liquidity and leave the project to get some piece of the pie, be able to walk away. And then those that are left over can discuss whether they want to pool their own funds together to do a group investing project rather than doing it through the DAO. And what's left in the DAO treasury is operating expenses. to potentially keep the foundation alive or restructure it into another entity that makes more sense for the mission. So fast forwarding to the end of the discussion, the last thing that we brought up was legal counsel. So this is something that's been pinged into all of the conversations probably 30 or 40 times at this point, and there's no getting around it. We can armchair quarterback all day long about the legal ramifications and the best way to take all these actions, but honestly, it really comes down to this. Um, we need legal counsel as a DAO. We need to know what we can and can't do, what the consequences are going to be for any of those actions that we take, whether we wrap up the foundation, dissolve the DAO, do the distributions. We need solid legal counsel before we take any actions. Okay. Okay, thank you, Phantasma. So to make this as smooth as possible, I had originally put in a vetting request for going out and finding legal counsel for the DAO and the foundation, and I put that into previous SIG prop that didn't launch. And that was specifically the annual budget for the foundation directors to keep the company alive. I'd put in a deliverable of go out and interview a couple of lawyers, pick one, and then the DAO will put a $10,000 retainer with that lawyer. But after a lot of discussion, it was agreed that was unfair to put unpaid work on the shoulders of anyone, especially foundation directors who were kind of involuntarily pushed into that role. So it was asked that I put together a bounty proposition for exactly that purpose, just a one-off. And so that is in the that's in the chat at the bottom of the which thread is that? The DAO Treasury distribution thread. Yeah, Lex DAO is first on my list because they understand crypto and they'll take payment in crypto. Those are two big bonuses for us. So I put together the proposition. It's at the bottom of that thread, and it's a one-off bounty, not an ongoing role. Simply, here's the money here's the hours I think it'll take. Here's how much I'm going to charge per hour, and then I will approve of any legal counsel. And if you want, I'll bounce that off of a member of an official member of the DAO, whoever you want to nominate for that. Make sure that we've got a second opinion before we pull the trigger. Oh yeah, they're all going to be extremely pricey. You're talking about a foundation in the Cayman Islands. That's where big money goes to do big money stuff without any oversight. I do work with my lawyer who here in the United States who has pretty extensive experience in crypto as well. He jumped the fence as soon as he saw that it was that things were moving in a certain direction. He understands NFTs. He and his investors that worked with his firm were all over that Solana project with the spaceships. It's going to take another 10 years before they actually launch a game. Can't remember the name of it. But yeah, he's been advising me on the accounting structure for my operations inside of Aavegotchi in order because there's an analog to tangible asset real world businesses. It makes it easy to just plug and play right into the U.S. tax scheme, even if you're working in Web3. Mr. VR Dev, would you mind unmuting and throwing your 2 cents worth our way? I don't want to capitalize the entire the entire conversation on this thread.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Little muffled.
Sorry, I don't have a dedicated mic right now. I'm just on a laptop. I don't really have much to say about it at this point. It's just in the stage of collecting ideas for how we could distribute things. But then, of course, um, we have to think about what we can even distribute. Of course, we are not able to just distribute all our LP positions, as that would have devastating consequences, but maybe we could distribute part of it, or if so, how much? And then also it came up that because currently it is earning yield, as soon as we take it out and kind of get this yield, it might need reporting of some sorts, which is why this legal counsel is so important, because based on what they will tell us, we can make plans going forth. But before we know what we can do and what we cannot do, there's little point in like making specific plans. Of course, brainstorming and so on is very welcome, but yeah, we really need to push forward with this council to know, hey, what can the DAO do without screwing over or putting at risk our directors, and what can we not do?
Okay, a little hard to make out what you were saying there, VR Dev, because your input is very muffled. But I can try and sum up what you just covered, and that was the discussion around the equitable distribution of the treasury, and back to there's no one size fits all solution where everybody's going to win and nobody's going to lose. So the goal is to kind of spread it out so that everybody can get an equal amount of win. And so the way we're looking at that, or at least where the discussion is so far, is that if you go 100% rarity farming, then it's 100% beneficial to the asset holders. If you go 100% VP based calculations, it's heavily weighted towards the liquid ghost holders. So somewhere in between is a more equitable solution. But we're also talking about how are we going to verify which wallets are qualified for a payout, and do it in a way that it doesn't just signal open market buys of ghosts in order to capitalize on a distribution for people that never had any part of this project in the first place. They just see, hey, we're signaling that we're giving away free money. Let me go buy this discounted token to get some free money. And so Phantasma's got the widest spread suggested out of all of them, which is a 25, 25, 25, 25, with 25 going to rarity farming payouts. And the discussion right now centers around clearing out the existing and pre-funded rarity farming rounds as soon as we go live on base, then bringing the Gotchi versus Players reward wallet over from Pixelcraft into the DAO, and creating some kind of rarity farming payout based on the parcels and Gotchi verse asset purchases.
Would that be additional rarity farming payout other than what's earmarked for it?
Yeah, it would be a completely different fund, and it would need its own payout hierarchy to be designed, because right now there's really no idea how to value out the Gotchi verse assets in a way that would make sense for anyone. So just for an example, so your max speed farmers got into the Gotchi verse. They bought up a lot of parcels and they built quickly. got their Alchemica out, and then had the option to pump on the market or dump on the market back in the day. So one point of view is that those players with that strategy already captured maximum value in the previous meta of the game. So now we're left with empty parcels and slow farming. So with the slow farming, do we okay? So do we value the Alchemica and the ground as being the largest value asset? Do we value the amount of money put into the farming builds for the long-term farming? Or do we favor a burn mechanism where you spend a bunch of glitter in order to max build your parcel in a single transaction, and then you can get your payout based on that? Oh, Fifu, not my assumption. I'm laying out some of the discussion points that came up in the conversation. So it's kind of a this and that and the other discussion right now. Nothing's really settled. Oh, Musashi, you're right. I did a long-term farming strategy as well. So those of us who are still farming our land are in that predicament where the value just goes down, and we certainly want to see some kind of benefit from all of those purchases and time put in. All right, so Phantasma says here's how he envisioned the split. Start with the ghost as rarity farming, distribute the land rewards to landowners in ghost as well, and then let ETH and stables be discussed further and voted on after the distributions have happened. Asset holders have been wrecked as it is, so it shouldn't be the other way around where ETH and stables go first and assets stay in the dust.
Hey, I just want to jump in real quick because it would be easier to say it than to type it. I don't know if this distribution of ghosts via rarity farming and then distributing everything else to land is the smartest idea, though, because we're going to leave a treasury full of ETH and stables, and all of the ghosts is circulating. So now, if there is a bad actor who's like hoarding ghosts, they'd be able to push through a transaction, like a vote, to basically drain the treasury for themselves. So we would have to keep that, that consideration. Now, as a DAO, like the directors could stop that theoretically, but I'd rather not be put in a position where I even have to think about that when we can just distribute in a more equitable way right up front.
Yeah, well, please jump into the conversation in that thread and put your ideas in, because the flip side of that argument is if the exetor contingent of the DAO doesn't have an alternative to the VC's offer, then that vote is most likely going to pass. So what we're trying to do here is create an alternative option for those that want their exit liquidity, so that we can get the money to the people that want it and still keep the DAO alive.
Yeah, I mean, I did jump in the thread and say this, and I'll say it again here just so everybody's clear. There are directors who have stated that they will not sign off on transactions for this if it's not considered correct. Like if we do a distribution that is like seems unethical, there's a few of us who've already stated that we will not sign, and that should be taken into consideration. You need to this dissolution or treasury distribution has to be done in an above board manner. This is why we should seek legal counsel. I personally think if we're going to do this, maybe the way to do it is to distribute the actual ETH and stables first, not LPs obviously, and then distribute the ghost, because there's less of an attack vector in that sense. But if we do something that looks funky, this is the one time where directors could just say we're not going to vote and quit. And we've already almost had that situation where multiple directors quit and the treasury would have been frozen. So I'm just warning everybody that you got to go about this in the correct way, because I will not be signing anything that's going to be putting me at legal jeopardy.
And I will not be pushing any kind of proposition to take a major action until I have a lawyer tell the DAO, yes, go ahead with it.
Hey guys, can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Yeah.
Okay. No future, could you say what caused this last time when the director said they might quit?
Yeah, it was the wait, did I unmute myself? Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself. Yeah, this was when we found out that CorpSec had been inactive or non-existent for a couple years, and then we were basically told that all 9 of us had to do a much more intense level of KYC, not just like supplying like your identification. We were talking proof of address, we're talking proof of identity, proof of wealth, proof of income, and then having like additional like a letter from some source basically vetting and verifying for us. So there's that. There were multiple, especially the European directors, who were basically saying that they would step down because they did not want that level of liability or like KYC because of MICA compliance issues that were coming forth for them. So this happened, basically as we were onboarding the new directors, we had multiple directors saying that they were going to step down. And we were in a situation where we might not even be able to add the new directors to the DAO's multi-sig. So this is why, and I've said this multiple times, I stepped up and was like, yo, let's get this CorpSec shit done immediately. Here's my KYC. Hardcore did the same. Thrax did the same. I believe Choina did the same. At least three of us did it so that we can get it over the goal, because we were very much in an existential moment of like, hey man, if we have multiple directors step down and unwilling to sign, the whole treasury is stuck.
But we do currently have 9 people in the multi-sig, or not?
There are currently 9.
How many are required for a transaction to clear?
5.
All right. And in our previously passed AGIPs, do we have a process for replacing any multi-sig signers that step down, or do we start with the discussion at square one?
If a multi-sig signer steps down, I guess it would be based on the previous election. The next in line would step up. But if you have multiple people saying they're not going to sign and all quit, you can't update the multi-sig because you still need 5 of 9. This was the threat that we had when we lost a few, and then we had 3 multi-sig signers kind of in the wing. You need all 3. You need 5 of us to be able to sign off to swap out the addresses as well.
Okay, so what you're saying is, let's assume the current multi-sig signers step down and the backups refuse to step up and there's nobody left in the pool. Do we have a policy or process to replace those positions, or do we start from the very beginning debating how we're going to go about writing that policy?
Yeah, I mean, if it's single, if there's 2 or 3 directors, we can go through our process. But if we have like more than 5 or even 4, then we sit in a situation where like the whole thing is stuck because it's a multi-sig. You have to have 5 signers of 9 to be able to sign off. Even it just, the process right now would be going through either another election if everybody just quit and say there's not enough people that were in the previous election to take over. Because it's a multi-sig, there's not many options outside of that.
Oof. All right, so it really is ultimate veto power, as it should be.
Yeah, and also the officer position, which I've said before too, that we've been placed in, technically has these same veto powers. Hardcore pointed that out, and I was very much against that concept, that these officers should have that like level of executive function where they could veto something, but they do. So if the DAO did something that seemed illegal, CorpSec, our member supervisor, or the executives could try to stop it from going through. Now, in terms of on-chain actions, our foundation executive can't stop. If the multi-sig votes, if the multi-sig 5 of us sign off on something that's illegal, we can't do anything because it's an on-chain transaction. But the foundation, in terms of like fiat world transactions, we do have that like, hey, say where we could stop it. So like a sale to a VC could potentially fall under that depending on how we're paid.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's not written in policy yet, but there is always the possibility of doing some kind of hybrid um, executive and legislative process. Just as an example, the DAO makes a vote, then it has to go to the foundation directors. The directors call legal counsel, run it through legal, and if legal approves it, then the directors can go, "Yep, it clears," and kick it off to the DAO treasurer to pull the trigger.
Theoretically, yes. The way we operate as a multi-sig is we do have the treasurer, but which is Maxi Crouton. But any of us, because we're all multi-sig signers and we're on the multi-sig, could write up a transaction, and we've had Choina do that before. I think Brills has done it before. So it doesn't have to necessarily be the treasurer, but our current process doesn't include any kind of legal review. To be honest, we haven't really had to do that, although I will argue that we have done certain things that would, like, we are a not-for-profit, we don't generate income, but after talking with Lotusha, some of the things we've done in the last couple of years could make it so that we have higher compliance requirements, specifically staking our ETH, because we have not filed taxes to claim the yield off of that, and that falls under the preview of revenue for the Cayman Islands. So we, beyond just what we're talking about here, we still have a debt to the Cayman Islands for our non-compliance for 2 years of just not filing. So there's those issues, because we can't just, even if we were to decide to dissolve and we go through the whole process, part of that process would have to be settling up with the Cayman Islands. I would think, honestly, I would say distribute ETH and stables first, and then we can come forward to distribute the Ghost. And as part of that Ghost distribution, either, if it's rarity farming, it's rarity farming. We don't have to really worry about that. But if it's like a one-off, do everything, we should probably dissolve the foundation and the multi-sig at the same time on that last transaction, so that there's no room for a governance attack, because there isn't governance anymore.
Yeah, but with one caveat that we do it in whatever order of operations legal advises us on, so that we don't open up a new can of worms.
100%, yeah. And not open ourselves to a governance attack where someone can accumulate, because Ghost is cheap, and, there will likely be a sell-off if people are getting a whole bunch of Ghost at once, where we trigger, like, basically an entity like Bob and friends coming over, buying enough voting power to be able to just sweep in and take all of our ETH, especially since ETH is moving upward now. I think we're positive on our investment in ETH. So if ETH goes on a run, our treasury can easily go up significantly, and now it's no longer just a couple $1,000,000. It could be several $1,000,000, and that might be incentive enough. Like I said, when we were at MCon, we had people come up to us and say, have we done anything to prepare for governance attacks, like people trying to basically take over the DAO and drain us? And our answer was a resounding no. And we mentioned this back in September, but we haven't really talked about it much since. But these are real, like, threats, and there are dark DAOs that would do this.
Yeah, and that's precisely why we're having the discussion of drawing down the treasury and in a responsible manner in order to reduce those governance attacks potentials. Why do dark DAOs choose violence? All right. So, wrapping it back up with the end of the conversation we were having in that thread, it seems that there's a lot of hands raised in approval of doing a one-off bounty for legal representation, not creating an official role, but just getting the first piece started, so that that we can move forward confident that we're taking the right actions.
Yeah, definitely. We can post the thread one more time, and then we can move on to Fifu's announcement, if that's cool with anyone. Any final thoughts for this discussion topic? All right. There is currently, I believe, about 15 to 20 minutes until FIFU's proposal is the SIG prop ends and then the core prop begins.
GM, you hear me?
GM, I can hear you.
Hi, Roxiano. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Roxy.
I'm same as VR Dev. I'm on my laptop with actually no earphones, nothing, and so on. So that's why I stay muted because I'm not sure you can. The sound is very good. Is it okay, at least?
Yeah, I can hear you. It sounds fine.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I just wanted to thanks all the people that voted for my sick prop. With all the things that happened in the last 2 weeks, I was a bit worried that not a lot of people would vote for it, or that it will not pass, or not meet quorum, or all those things. And on the contrary, it did very well because it reached 120% of quorum. So it would almost have made it even with the old one, and 80% of people voted yes. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the results, and and I'm going to post the following core props that goes with it in the next 20-25 minutes. And yeah, I hope it passes the same way. I'm not gonna comment on all the thanks, Coderdan. And I'm not going to comment on all the discussion regarding dissolution and all that stuff because basically I haven't read half of the thread. It's been very active those last days, and I was in holiday, so I was not able to follow up with it. My only take on that is the fact that if we basically want to remove assets from the DAO treasury, like the valuable assets, like I've said to quite a few people, we need to keep in mind that we have a good portion of the stables that are still locked in liquidity pools, and they are the ones that are ensuring stability in the price of Ghost. We have the same thing with some hits on base, if I'm right. So those stables and hits, that portion of it to me is locked, and I would not advise to remove anything from the liquidity pools. And yeah, and regarding the remaining part, I understand the reasoning of people that wants to go this way. It's not how I see things, but well, it's a DAO, that's how it is. People can post some prop, it goes to vote, and we see how the community reacts. I think that's the game. And the only thing I have to say is that I would like to remind people that the goal of this DAO, as it's been created at some point, is to take care of the protocol, manage the protocol, and make it live. And I think at some point, Pixelcraft should focus on what we funded them to do last time, meaning games for the protocols. And the DAO is supposed to grow up and take care of the protocol. For example, when I hear Phantasma saying that maybe after we dissolve, split the asset, there might be kind of a crash in the valuation of our assets, and it might also be a nice time to have newcomers and even for an H3. It's a good idea in itself, I agree with that, but to make an H3, you need a bit of money just for the developing side, and you need a lot of money for marketing. If we remove all the valuable assets from the treasury first, and then try to make an H3 with no money to make marketing, because I think that's what will cost the most. I think the tech part, the smart contract, and the web part, I think it will take a few tens of thousands. I think the marketing, if you want to be very good, it is hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know anything about marketing, but I think that will be what will cost us the most money if we want a successful on free one day. So basically, if we leave the DAO with not that much money in to manage and to make stuff happen, nothing will happen. Yeah, there is a large spectrum between removing nothing and removing everything. I totally agree, but it's not that large when you look at the number, basically. It's not really that large to me. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think, well, I don't know the numbers, but I'm not sure it is that large. And I think we need to keep a bit of money for the DAO operation. If we keep only some GHST to be distributed and enough to put in GLP, there's not much of stuff we'll be able to do that. And yeah, it will not be a good sign we sent. So distribute some if some people wants to exit out, why not? But I think we need to be careful regarding how much we keep so we can still run operations. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, the protocol in itself will one day, if we want to succeed, if we want to go somewhere, it will become something that is managed by the DAO itself. If the DAO has no fun to manage it, then I think it's the end of the road. So yeah, that was my take on it. I will reread all the thread because maybe I haven't read all the details and maybe what I'm saying is not really relevant. But yeah, that's the way I see things. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks everyone who voted on my proposal. I'm happy to see a lot of activities in the Discord anyway, even if I'm not 100% aligned with the subject itself. And I will reread all those things in the next days, so I can contribute to the thread in a more, in a better way. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Fifu. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, people are still discussing marketing costs. I wonder if the DAO would be willing to pay marketing. That would be an interesting proposal. And then it comes to the question of like, who would we pay for the marketing? Like, how would we pay to market?
Yeah, and as I say, I don't know anything about marketing. The only thing I know from my experience is that it costs more money than the development part of a startup or a project. And that's why I was raising that point.
Yeah. I am by no means a marketing expert either. I do know that like some payments for marketing are scams and some are like some are, yeah, I don't know, it's really hard to tell. You're qualified, Thorax? Do you wanna make a case? Any suggestions are welcome. Start a forum post. Yeah. The DAO definitely needs solutions like that. True. The best resume. Experience with Aavegotchi itself. At some point, we do need to, yeah, spend money marketing. Good point, Schnitzel Death. We are, yeah, we are a good community. We have the quality, we just need to show people. Oh, Nadil also. You also work with marketing. That's good. I see a potential team. We could start a marketing team for the DAO. I'd love to see a proposal like that. Anyway, yeah, I believe that that's all for the discussion today. And thank you everyone who participated. I think it was a pretty productive call. And I believe it has been about an hour since the DAO call started. So it might be a good time to wrap up. Hopefully we can hear a lot more opinions on everything we talked about today in the forums in the links that we posted. Looking forward to it. And I hope to be reinstated as DAO facilitator sometime soon. Yeah, we definitely got to repost the proposal.
Quickly before we sign off, how should we handle the meetings going forward?
That is a good question.
Can you put something in the proposal that says that you'll get back paid for what you're doing now until it is passed?
That is a good suggestion.
Cristiano, when do you plan to, you and the other facilitators, when do you plan to repost the proposal?
As soon as possible, most likely. FaZe is the one to post it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would have been happy to do one call on the next month, but because it's like full in the middle of the Saturday afternoon on my side, in the next month, if as no one is getting paid for it, I'm okay to do one for free. We just need to plan which date in advance if you and the other facilitators are busy, or if you I don't know. If you can help, I'm ready to do one. If some people can also step up and do it one time, and that way we can wait for the vote to happen, I'm okay to do one for free.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. And No Future has a good point. There is a risk of denying and then spending time and work into something that when it might not, pass in the end. It is a risk.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
I agree. That's why I was suggesting for
yeah,
myself to do one for free, because if you find three other person who can do one call for free, you get your this month covered up, and that's why there is already, like, you've been doing, how many DAO hour have you been doing for free so far? All
yeah,
of you.
technically, this one was basically just making up for last week when I was on vacation, but yeah.
Okay. Get you.
Thank you. So I guess we can wrap this up, see what happens, and hopefully we get the votes on our new proposal or reposted proposal. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.